hard.
Yeah.
Don't be presumptuous.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Zoning Board Adjustment has been provided. I'll call the roll. Mr. Betterbid?
Here.
Ms. Grauman?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Mr. McCracken?
Here.
Mr. Rich?
Here.
Mr. Shepherd? Mr. Caldwell? Mr. Rosenthal?
Here.
Mr. Reese?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell? Chairman Thomas?
Here.
The first matter of business is reorganization. Do we have a nomination for chair?
I nominate Mr. Thomas.
Second.
Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Now you can run the meeting.
All right, thank you. It is an honor to have this position and serve on the board. I think we should backtrack and give everyone the oath of office.
Pat did it before the
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, it's all done?
Yep.
We'll entertain nominations for vice chair.
Laura.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's good. Congratulations.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, technically, we just want to point out that this board does do fair and open for the services of the board attorney, so the proposal went out. Mr. Bradshaw was the lone applicant. We formally have to interview him, so if there are any questions before you make any motion, the bylaws require that you do an interview.
My only question would be is ask Mr. Bradshaw if he's sure that he wants the position.
Yeah, if you're willing to put up with me, I'd be happy to come back.
Any other questions for the interview? Any motion?
I move the appointment of Mr. Bradshaw for board attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, let the record reflect that Mr. Caldwell arrived at 7:35.
okay.
Eligible
And
vote.
then we will administer the witness oath to Mark Healy and Vince Dominic, so we are sure they're honest for the entire year,
Okay.
this year.
If you'll both say your name.
Aye.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, during the course of any testimony that you present to the board throughout the entire year?
I do.
Okay, very good.
Okay, moving down to minutes of the regular meeting, December 6, 2012. Is there a motion
So moved.
or corrections or additions?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Mr. Betterbid?
Yes.
Ms. Grauman?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes. Resolutions, the calendar for 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The appointment again of the attorney,
Yeah,
this is the resolution.
Yeah, I have the resolution before you. It's just memorializing that you appointed him, so.
So we'll entertain motions on the resolution.
I think you don't really have to.
That's that. I think you just have to sign it. Calls for your signature.
Yeah, they need to vote on that.
So moved.
Then second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Jackson ZBA 12-00024, that's a application, a resolution on a hearing.
So moved.
We have a second?
I second.
All the board?
Mr. Betterbid?
Yes.
Mr. McCracken?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes, Millman ZBA 12-00025.
I move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Betterbid?
Yes.
Mr. McCracken?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Mr. Reese?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
You left
Yes.
me out of both.
Oh,
both
I did?
of those. Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. You're allowed to.
So I vote yes on the
Yes.
previous one, I vote yes on
Yeah.
this one.
Cooper, ZBA 12-00022.
I move the resolution. Second.
Second.
Mr. Betterbid,
Yes.
Ms. Grauman,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
No, I abstain.
You abstain. Mr. McCracken,
Yes.
Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Mr. Reese,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. And finally, Trulis, ZBA 12-00021.
I'll move it.
I second.
Mr. Betterbid,
Yes.
Ms. Grauman,
Abstain.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. McCracken, Mr. Rich,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. And we have a voucher, January retainer, $865 for Mr. Bradshaw. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll just go through the canceled hearings first, and then if anyone doesn't have to be here, they can leave. And then we're going to have a brief report on litigation. So in the hearing section, New Jersey, Buddha's Bahara, applicant seeks a D3 conditional use variance and site plan for a new three-story worship building at 4299 Route 27, Princeton, Block 5.02, Lot 7778, the RR5 zone, carried to February 7th, no notification needed. Chen Junwoo Zhen, docket ZBA 13-00001, applicant requesting to use existing barn to store studio equipment at 4185 Route 27, Princeton, RR3 zone, carried to February 7th, no further notification. Dayel Enterprises, applicants looking to amend previous approved site plan and sign variance. The change would be to construct a smaller building and repositioning the building at 1400 Hamilton Street, Somerset, Block 89.03, Lot 3.01 in the M2 zone, also February 7, no further notification. So before we actually start, I'd like to ask Mr. Bradshaw to give us an update on any current litigation as much as possible in an open public meeting.
Okay. Well, the only litigation that we are part of is the billboard litigation, the E&J equities litigation, and the decision from the court. Well, let me give you a little bit of background so you know where it was. This is the case about the billboard on 287. The board had denied the application. The applicant then brought the board to court, but also brought the township to court and challenging the ordinance itself. And after the court had a trial on the matter, back in the summer, just came out with the decision about 2 weeks ago or so. And I'm happy to report that for our part, the court affirmed the decision, found that it was valid, that the board did the right thing, that said that the ordinance that was in place, and had we done something else, we would have been abrogating our authority and going beyond it. So the court essentially ruled in our favor. And I think I did circulate that opinion. If anybody doesn't have it, they're welcome to take a look at it. On the other side, the court took issue with the township's ordinance on constitutional grounds, indicating that there was an abridgment of First Amendment free speech, such that that issue, the court struck down a portion of the ordinance, and I don't know whether or not the town council is going to appeal that or not. It's my understanding that they're attempting to at least stay the order of the court so that they can address concerns in the ordinance, given that the court took a piece of the ordinance out. But for our part, the matter is not remanded back to the board. It's not coming back to the board, not as part of that litigation anyway, because if in fact the ordinance no longer contains the prohibition, it would go to the planning board. And that's assuming that it's not appealed and overruled.
Okay, any questions?
Well,
Right.
yeah, I do. What does that really mean? Does that mean that they are allowed to do it, or they're not allowed to do it with the billboard?
Well, well, right now, if nothing else changes, what it means is they put in an application to the planning board. It's now an approved use. And then they'll have to, submit their site plan or whatever the requirements are of the planning board. And then ultimately, yeah, they would get it. But, the interesting part of and this is why the township's asking for a stay, which is basically a delay period of, I think they asked for 90 days, so that the township has an opportunity to change the ordinance a little bit. I mean, even the court in its decision said there are things that you can have put in the ordinance to restrict it. But we feel a complete ban based on these grounds goes against the Constitution. But the court did say there are things that you can do to limit its impact. So you would reasonably believe the court should give the township the opportunity to do that and grant the stay. But, if the court doesn't grant the stay, once they file their application, the law as it exists when they file that application is what controls. And I know that they're hustling to get it in to file it as quickly as possible to take advantage of that aspect of the law.
They've actually submitted an application.
All right, so it really will be up to the court. If you want my opinion, the equity is that the court should allow the time. Because, it was a hotly contested issue. The court itself wrestled with the issue at the trial and issued a lengthy opinion such that it wasn't a one-way argument. Such that, in my opinion, to now leave the township wide open, even without the very restrictions the court said would have been proper, seems to me to be not fair. But again, that's up to the court, and it won't involve the board. I won't have any say arguing that.
Will it affect any of the other rulings that we made?
No, we were completely affirmed by the court. And the ruling states so, and so it won't affect us at all.
Pat, I also understand that on some other rulings in New Jersey, that after the lower court ruled against townships on this matter, the appellate on appeal, they've ruled back in favor of the towns. There's like two, 3 cases like that. You aware of that?
Well, there are cases like that. I mean, because my aspect of this case was not, didn't really address the constitutional aspects of it. I mean, I really don't want to tell you one way or the other. I do know it's an issue in flux, and it's an issue that a lot of towns are grappling with, and I do believe that there are pending cases with possible decisions that'll come down that may have had an impact on this court had they been available. It's a well thought out opinion. He sets forth his opinion well. He didn't come to the conclusion in a quick manner. I just don't happen to agree with it.
Okay,
Except as to the board.
Yeah, that's all right.
I agree with that.
okay, moving on then to the first application, Seagrove Associates, ZJ 12-00026, applicant proposing 4 signs, 1 freestanding, 3 attached to a building, 120 Cedar Grove Lane, Somerset, 424.10, lot 302 in the CR zone.
Humming.
Getting some feedback somewhere.
One of them wasn't working yesterday
If that was the one.
I didn't get it.
This better? Yeah.
Still making noise.
Start again. Peter Lanfrit, 428 Elizabeth Avenue, appearing on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Chairman, this is, and members of the board, this is an application for a pylon sign at this shopping center on Cedar Grove Lane at the intersection of New Brunswick Road. At the present time, there are 3 existing signs, and Mr. Fisk, who is our engineer, is handing out a reduced version of the exhibit that I have marked A1 to show the existing signs and also the location of the proposed sign. The existing freestanding signs are basically shopping center identification signs and not tenant identification signs. Our application tonight is to construct another sign on Cedar Grove Lane, which will afford the owner of the shopping center the ability to name some of the tenants on that sign so they have further identification to the traveling public. Also, there is an application for 3 new attached signs. As this board is probably well aware, having heard numerous applications involving signs, commercial signs in this town are permitted for each tenant. Those signs are 30 square feet. However, they are supposed to be located in the proximity of the tenant's space. For those of you who have been to that shopping center, there are a couple tenants in that shopping center that their spaces are tucked in corners and have almost no visibility to the roadway. So, again, the signs that we are proposing are 30 square feet, consistent with the ordinance, but they are not located above the tenant's space, but out on the, as you're looking at the property on the left end of the building, and Mr. Healy pointed it out in his exhibit that he provided with his report. I have 3 witnesses who I hope will be very brief to explain all of this so that we have it on the record, and I will start with Mr. Fisk.
Mr. Fisk, do you raise your right hand if you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Fisk, can you briefly give the board the benefit of your educational and professional background?
I am a licensed land surveyor in the state of New Jersey, and a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey.
We'll find them just as acceptable in 2013 as we did in 2012.
And probably in 1985. Mr. Fisk, you prepared the survey that is was part of our submission in this matter, is that correct?
Yes.
And I have marked that survey as A1, and it is on the board to your left, correct?
That is actually an exhibit that is not exactly the same as the survey that was submitted.
Okay. The document that is before the board this evening, can you indicate then specifically what it is?
Right. This document, Exhibit A1, is the same as the survey and site plan that the board is looking at. However, we have added the revised location of the freestanding sign marked in pink, and also on the small exhibits that I handed out to the board. On the map that was submitted for the application, that sign was shown to be closer to Cedar Grove Lane. We have since proposed to move it back to be complying with a 20-foot setback requirement from the right-of-way.
Was that why the sign is Xed out on the exhibit that we have?
Yeah, we did that because that was a rendering based on the initially proposed location. But you have the I believe you were provided, if you look over this way, exhibits that showed this is the new location, and then they did a cross-section. I believe that was in your packet, and was also in our report. That's what they're currently proposing.
Okay.
That was based on input with staff, basically to try to reduce the impact.
Yeah. For the record, we did submit the application. After the application was submitted, Mr. Healy and Mr. Dominic had indicated that they wanted to meet with the applicant and his professionals concerning the location of the sign, the size of the sign, so that and they had some concerns about it. So we did have a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and you'll hear testimony, but the sign has been relocated further from the roadway, has been lowered. Some of the detail of the sign has been eliminated to make it smaller, but we'll go into that. So that what we're asking for approval now are the revised plans that have been submitted as a result of that meeting. Now, Mr. Fisk, first of all, with respect to you indicated in your opening that there are existing roadway signs, is that correct?
Yes, there are 3 signs along Cedar Grove Lane and New Brunswick Road presently. They are marked in blue on this exhibit and also on the small maps that I handed out. Those signs are 5 feet high or less. They are not the substantial pylon sign that we're proposing.
Okay, and they basically identify the shopping center but no tenants, correct?
That's correct. All they have on them is the name of the shopping center.
And they are located at the 3 driveway entrances to the shopping center, correct?
That's correct.
On Cedar Grove Lane and also on New Brunswick.
Right. The 2 signs are at the driveway entrances on Cedar Grove Lane and very near the driveway entrance on New Brunswick Road.
Okay. And we are asking that those signs remain, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Now, the staff report indicates that there are some variances that we are seeking. First of all, we're not proposing to build any buildings or structures. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Everything that's there is staying there on the property, correct?
With the exception of the new pylon sign,
Right.
which will not be one of the variances.
Okay. You have in yellow on your exhibit some markings along Cedar Grove Lane and along New Brunswick Road. What do they depict?
Along Cedar Grove Lane, the county has asked for a roadway dedication. Our deed actually runs to the center line of both roads. In the past, the county has acquired a road easement along Cedar Grove Lane. They now have asked us to expand that area a little bit and make it a formal dedication of land. That's indicated in yellow on this map, and it varies between 47 feet and 49 feet. Basically, it's 10 feet behind the curb line is what they're asking for.
Is the only difference an easement as opposed to a dedication, or is the roadway expanded some?
The roadway,
The right of the county expanded?
they will own, they had an easement to put their road in before, now they will own the land.
And that's the only difference?
Right, but however, because now they own the land, the signs that we now have, although they don't move, they're in the same spot, are in variance because we don't own that property in the front anymore.
We'll get into that in a minute. Along New Brunswick Road, there never was any road dedications nor road easements. And what the applicant is proposing to do is to clean that up and dedicate 33 feet off the center line for most of New Brunswick Road and 43 feet as we approach the intersection. That's basically in accordance with the way the tax map was set up, and I believe the site plan originally may have indicated that. I was not a part of that, but that's probably how the tax map arrived at that configuration. What we're going to do is clean that up and actually dedicate the land to the township. One of the reasons that's important is that there are some traffic signal devices along New Brunswick Road behind the curb, which the county is very interested in having in a right-of-way and not on private property.
Okay. So as a result of that, those dedications, what happens?
Okay, as a result of the dedications, the 3 existing signs are no longer 20 feet from a right-of-way line and will require a variance. The sign on New Brunswick Road is 1.6 feet off the right-of-way line. The reason it's that close is because of the extra 10 feet that we're granting beyond the normal 33 feet. The 2 signs on Cedar Grove Lane will be 8.9 feet from the new right-of-way line and 8.1 feet. Again, they're existing. They're pretty low signs, 5 feet or less. There's also going to be a variance required for the distance from the canopy at the bank building to the proposed right-of-way line. That distance is 43 feet versus a 75-foot requirement. Now, when this site plan was originally approved and submitted, it probably was measured from the actual bank building And if we did a calculation on that, we would find that we have 65 feet to the proposed line and 75 feet, which was the requirement and still is, to a 33-foot sideline. So the bank was built in the right place, but under Franklin's regulations, we must measure from the canopy, and that's the variance we need to ask for the 43 feet. None of the buildings are changing. It's just because of the right-of-way lines that we need to ask for these variances.
So in essence, Mr. Fisk, all these variances are technical in nature and to clean up the record. And if the board were to grant our approvals this evening and somebody were to drive by there tomorrow, next week, or next month, everything is the same?
Correct.
Okay.
There's one further variance for impervious coverage on the property. There's a 40% limitation. I did a calculation of the impervious coverage based on the existing property and find it to be 47.39%. After the dedication, it actually becomes less because of the roadway that we're dedicating to the town and county, and the variance that we're going to ask for is 43.23%. All of that is existing. We're not proposing any additional impervious. In fact, we're going to eliminate approximately 300 square feet of pavement for the area of the new sign, which will take up 2 parking spaces. So there's actually a slight reduction in the impervious. Just for the record, I did a count on the parking on the site, and we presently have 384 spaces. That'll be reduced to 382. Based on the building square footage, the requirement is 315. So the applicant has more than enough parking, much more than the ordinance requires. I believe that does it for the variances, except for the sign that's proposed on the face of the building, which another witness will address directly.
Thank you, Mr. Fisk. I have no further questions.
Any board questions?
So just to summarize real quickly in terms of the variances, it's for the new variances. You're proposing a new sign on Cedar Grove, and then there are 2 of those monument signs at each entrance. So then now you'll have 3.
That is
Where
correct.
1 is permitted. So that's 1. The sign area, the max is 100 square feet. You're proposing 166 square feet. And I'm sure your other witness is going to talk about the appearance. The actual sign display area is 100 square feet. To the degree you're over, it's going to be the decorative pillars.
That is correct.
And then the last one is, and again, I'm sure it's your next witness, you're going to have signs on the side of the building facing Cedar Grove Lane, and they're not in a location that's permitted technically in our ordinance, so that's a variance from that. And then the other variances that Mr. Fisk talked about all relate to the road takings.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Jamel.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth? You're going to need to, okay. State your name into the record, spell the last name for me.
Joseph Jamal, last name spelled J-E-M-A-L.
Thanks.
Mr. Jamal.
Thank you.
Mr. Jamal, are you one of the owners of the shopping center that is the subject of this application?
Yes.
And approximately when did you purchase the shopping center?
My family purchased the shopping center in approximately 1997.
Okay. And in the shopping center, there is the one large building, which was the original building that was built when was that there when you purchased the shopping center?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, you want to put
Oh,
the-
is it a little bit better? Sorry.
Right.
Okay. And then there is a second building, which is closer, it's at the intersection of New Brunswick and Cedar Grove Lane, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that building was built by your family after you purchased the shopping center?
Correct.
Okay. The application is to construct a pylon sign to identify some of the tenants in the shopping center. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you indicate why you are seeking the approval for this sign when you already have existing signs at the shopping center?
The main reason is to ensure and try to get identifiability for the existing tenants that are in the shopping center. As Mr. Lanford mentioned earlier, that what I'll call phase 2 of the center, which is the area between Starbucks and the liquor store by the intersection of New Brunswick Road and Cedar Grove Lane, has a few differences between the other building. The main ones being that it's higher in elevation and it's much closer up to the road. The rest of the shopping center, when it was purchased, has a much farther setback off of the road. The elevation is depressed, kind of behind the berm. And it's not to say that there is no visibility. It's significantly decreased visibility, especially for those tenants who are kind of in where it elbows in, where that L is. And what kind of told us, since we've owned the center, where the strong and the kind of weaker parts are those areas that have low and high turnover of tenants. The low turnover section is that newer section that has better visibility. We've had almost no turnover there with my history there, except for the bank, which relocated for other reasons, and a tanning salon, which the tenant who was there next door doing so well immediately moved and expanded their space into that. Having said that, the slightly high turnover rate that we've had on the other property, the main reason why we always are told is that, say, listen, no one knows we're here. They have good businesses. Some of them are there for a long time. They become fixtures. But I get a lot of phone calls to say that, when are we going to get more signage? No one knows we're here. Or basically, someone just came over from New York Sports Club, and they said, I didn't know you were here, and they were 30 feet away from the entrance to the gym. So we're just trying to, as we've owned the center, and as the town grows, and as the growth of the road has widened over time, try to keep up with things and try to keep people doing well and in business, especially in some of the tougher times that they've gone through over the past couple of years. And we want to continue to invest back into the center.
When you first purchased the shopping center, Cedar Grove Lane in front of that shopping center, how many lanes was it?
I believe there was 2 lanes at the time.
Okay, and now basically, for a portion of it at least, there's 4 lanes, 2 in each direction?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Now, also, have you received any feedback from prospective tenants who are looking to locate their business in your shopping center, and have they expressed any information to you concerning the lack of signage?
Absolutely, and more than less those that are the national tenants, meaning they're either publicly traded or multiple locations throughout the region or country, where their real estate people will say, well, we like the center, it's very nice, it's nicely built, it's a beautiful town, great area, but there's no visibility and there's no signage for us to be identified, especially on the larger space where the Rite Aid had relocated. It's been sitting vacant for some time, and most of the people who I do speak to, and we get to some point, have a problem with the fact that there's no main pylon, whereas some of the other centers do.
You and I have had the opportunity to review the reports that were generated in conjunction with this application, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Healy, in his report, discussed the fact that it's his opinion that there should be some additional landscaping that should be put back into the shopping center. You've read that? And do you have any objection to complying with that and developing a landscape plan and submitting it to Mr. Healy for his review and approval?
I have no objection to that.
Okay. I have no further questions of this witness.
I have a couple questions. Sure. Have you ever gotten any feedback from customers about the shopping center?
most of customers who will usually go through the tenants, which goes through us. That's where really the day-to-day interactions go. But for the most part, they have mentioned to these tenants who've then said to us that they either didn't know they existed when they had been in the center for probably more than 10 years at that time, or that, when driving by, it's hard to see who's there. The people who were there when the property was either first built or if they just opened, those are the ones, the identifiable tenants, either because they separate themselves by some way or because, either they're the gym or the Starbucks in places that are daily fixtures.
Would you like some feedback from the customer?
I would very much like that.
Okay. I live relatively close there. I used to use that shopping center all the time for the tenants that were there. And I'll let you know why I stopped using it, basically. And I know that it's an issue for a lot of people. It may not solve all the issues. First of all, you mentioned the width of the street in front of Cedar Grove Lane. I'm not sure anybody knows how many lanes it's supposed to be. The county was supposed to be restriping that street years ago. They were supposed to put a right turn only lane going toward Easton Avenue into the shopping center so that there wouldn't be this 30-foot wide right lane that people are fighting over all the time and no one knows exactly where to go to. So getting into your shopping center from that side is an issue. Making any left turn in at certain times of the day is another issue. It isn't so, I know the stores in your place, I don't need a sign. I'm not saying signs aren't needed. But the other issue is the facility closest to New Brunswick Road. And I have a couple suggestions there that could also solve your impervious coverage problem too. At the exit going to New Brunswick Road, you have a shopping center driveway that's parallel with New Brunswick Road that ends at that entrance. You have a bank drive-in lane that exits there. It's also an exit to go out of the shopping center onto New Brunswick Road. I think personally one of your big advantages, considering where your location is, the fact that you have the possibility to exit onto New Brunswick Road, make a right turn, and then you have a light there where you can make a left turn or a right turn, where you're not often making a left turn out of your place onto Cedar Grove Lane without the light. However, it's virtually impossible to get out of that driveway a lot of the times when people are using it. My suggestion is that you should take that driveway, close it, eliminate it, or leave it as put a gate up and make it an emergency exit, so that at least you're limited to just the bank drive exit, and the people exiting and entering can do it without another traffic movement to keep aware of. The second thing I suggest that you go to the township, since New Brunswick Road is a township street, and you request them to put a intersection line across New Brunswick Road where that driveway exits. Because every time the light's red, nobody stops. Nobody allows you to get out of, you can't get out of your facility because all the traffic blocks the driveway. A line or an intersection line may not solve all the problems, but it's an additional visible assistance, let's say. I think it would, for most people, would probably help a lot. Some people will never let you out. I also think that in a period of time that the place kind of began to deteriorate a little bit. Holes in the pavement. I don't see enough trash barrels around anywhere for people to put trash down. I think a lot of that's been improved. The new roof was improved. I'd like to see the clock actually tell the right time, which is something that our Township is pretty big on when you have clock towers. I have found that it's easier for me, and I live within walking distance of your facility, but it's easier for me to drive to Elizabeth Avenue, do what I need to do, and come back than it is to get in and out of this facility at certain points of the day time. And there is nobody who's being a neighbor there that wants you to succeed more than I do, because I don't like to see the empty buildings and the things that happen and the perception that comes from about that. But I could not resist offering a couple suggestions. I hope something is valuable and something can come out of it. I know that we're not in a situation where we're going to grant a sign variance and say you're required to do this X, Y, and Z, but I would think if you sincerely want to see that thing continue to succeed, and for years it was called the retail success story of Franklin Township. It was booming. There's no reason it shouldn't happen again. You certainly have the traffic and the potential for the visibility. I would also agree that I would like to see the landscaping restored and improved. I don't think removing the trees that were removed on the street really solved your visibility issue. The sign that you propose should, but I think it's also compatible with proper landscaping. I might have digressed a little too much, but thank you.
Mr. Thomas, I've written down your comments. I will pass them on formally to my client. Some of them I think we can probably implement fairly quickly, and some of them we may need some assistance somewhere along the line, like the county. But we don't have any problem trying to contact the county to get some things done, or contacting the governing body. And we appreciate those comments, and I'm sure my client will deal with them.
You could get some moral support for the street from the township. The area in front of your shopping center is like a wild zone. There's no other way to describe it. And the county, as far as I'm concerned, is negligent for allowing that whole situation to exist. And this is a separate situation from the typical, three-stop intersection stoplight. That can actually benefit you. But this whole idea that all this traffic is coming together with nothing channeling it, and if they hit the light green on New Brunswick Road, they're going 80 miles an hour. If they had to stop for the light, then they're weaving at whatever they can speed up to. But maybe you can do something.
I experienced some of the things you mentioned just tonight coming out, so I understand what you're saying and very much appreciate the feedback. Thank you. And on or off the record in my office, you're more than welcome to please, if you have any other feedback, please feel free to.
Okay, thank you. Any other board questions?
Do
you have any,
On the
do you have any empty stores right now, or any stores that are empty because of because of the sign problem?
I have the end cap and the space next to it vacant, which is a little over 9,000 square feet. I guess it's probably about 12% of the center alone. We just recently filled the vacant bank pad, which was there for quite a while. That was 3,500 feet, but just recently filled. A number of small shop space. The Verizon store recently went out for similar visibility issues, felt that it couldn't be seen. Found another space up the block and the whole story. And that and the Allstate space is actually taking the next step in the opposite direction, and that he couldn't be seen. He was never able to be seen, felt that couldn't make any money. So he's going to take the additional investment, in fact, and move to the Verizon store in a hopes that that will help to improve his business. I actually left his space earlier today, and we shook hands on that potential move. But it's always kind of a rolling tendency in there, in and out. We hope to try to improve that with all the feedback.
Well, Verizon's probably not a good example because they just, how many stores can they have within a half a mile of each other?
And
They
just
just
open
open, Mr. Lamford's other clients' facilities, but we get the picture anyway. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've been, I guess, going to that shopping center since we moved here 7 or 8 years ago. And I've watched the stores come and go, and I know it's a visibility problem because when I go to Starbucks or the wine store, I will always go driving in front of the smaller area just to see what the heck is there, because it changes. Things that I thought were there was an optometrist there, or optician, and he wasn't there when I expected it. There were a number of them. So I think that the tenant sign is a good thing. I think you need it, and I'm in favor of it.
Other board comments?
Well, I've been going to that shopping center for over 20 years. I remember when they had a little, I don't know if it was a UPS, but they had the mailbox place down there and everything. And I think, I don't disagree with you with the signage. I don't disagree with that. But that's a neighborhood, that shopping center is a neighborhood shopping center. And the people that are here, they know who's there and who's not there. I guess the biggest shock is to go and Rite Aid isn't there one day. Or the one on the end that had the figurines and before it was a paint store.
Gift shop.
The pen, the shock is that there aren't there anymore. But I think it's a local, it's a neighborhood shopping center. And we're always going to go to the Chinese, to get the takeout and everything. But like I said, I don't disagree with the signage. I think it'll help. But I don't know what the other things are. I don't know if it's the economy or what it is that, but the local people know what's there. And I do agree, but we know how to maneuver in and out of there too. But there is the traffic issue. But, you either go in down there where the gym is, going that way so you don't have to get hung up down at the light. But folks that live here know how to maneuver and get through the area.
Other questions? You have other witnesses?
I just have the architect who designed the sign, just to get the dimensions on the record, and I'll try to be brief with that.
Thank you.
Sir, if you'll raise your right hand for me, you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record.
Robert Gorski, Gorski.
Mr. Gorski, what is your occupation?
I've been a registered architect in private practice since 1970.
And you're licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
And where is your office located?
In Atlantic Highlands.
And can you briefly indicate to the board what experience you've had in the area of shopping centers and signage over the years you've been in practice?
We've been working in commercial buildings for probably all 40 years that we've been in practice.
We'll accept that.
Okay. Mr. Gorski, as I indicated in the opening and Mr. Healy confirmed, we submitted an application for the new freestanding sign on Cedar Grove Lane. And that sign, when we first submitted it, was located closer to Cedar Grove Lane, correct?
Yes.
And it was also larger than the sign that we are seeking approval for this evening.
Yes.
Can you briefly take the board through what we originally submitted as far as the size of the sign and then where we are at today and indicate to the board where the reductions were made?
Perhaps the best drawing to look at would be the cross-section drawing showing the road, the existing pavement, there's a tree, a couple of cars, and people shown. The sign, as it shows as a 20-foot setback, was originally shown at 10-foot. So it was up onto the slope, partially blocking the tree line, and we moved it further back. And in addition, we made the brick piers smaller and shorter and reduced the overall square footage by some probably 100 square feet or so. The 10-foot by 10-foot identification board, if we want to call it that, was always the same. So we lowered the height by about 3 or 4 feet. We made the brick piers somewhat smaller. They were originally 2 foot by 2 foot. It's only 16 inches wide now and 16 at its face. And we moved it back on, partially onto the parking area that Mr. Fisk mentioned. And if you look at my blow-up of that one particular area, we're taking 2 parking spaces to accommodate that sign. The intent there, just like I show in my drawing, is that we will have ground shrubbery very similar to what we had proposed initially and what's shown on the, or what's there now on the, let's say, identification signs of the driveway.
With respect to the 3 attached signs that we are seeking a variance for, they are 30 square feet each, is that correct?
Each of them is 3 foot by 10 foot, that's correct.
And that is in compliance with the township ordinance as far as the size of the signs?
That's correct.
So the variance that we are seeking is the location and not the size of those signs?
Correct.
And the signs that you are proposing for those 3 tenants are similar to the signs that are being used today to identify the other tenants within the shopping center?
That's correct.
Thank
Are
you.
you adding, looking at this picture, you're adding 3 signs to what used to be the Rite Aid front? That's what you're asking for?
They're on the Rite Aid front to identify the stores that are going to take Rite Aid spot, and there was another store there.
I thought that the sports club was moving into the Rite Aid area.
No, they're not moving into it. We're just trying to give them some identification.
One of the signs would actually comply because it would be the sign for that building.
Right.
The old Rite Aid.
And by the same as the signs, you mean they're same in terms of material and the external illumination, which is pretty consistent with the rest of the...
Those signs will be consistent with the rest of the center.
All right, thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Any questions? If there are no more witnesses, I'll open to the public. Anybody want to make a comment or ask a question concerning any of the testimony or the application in general?
Was there anything in any of the reports that you cannot comply with?
I'm sorry. No, we will comply with everything in all the staff reports. They're all fine.
All right, thank you.
And we'll close the public. Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Nothing further.
Anything from the board?
All right, I'll make a motion that the variances set forth in Vince's report be approved with the condition that there be improved landscaping as agreed to around the pylon sign.
We have a second?
Second.
All aboard?
Mr. Betterbid?
Four.
Ms. Graman?
Yes?
Mr. McCracken?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes, good luck. I hope those buildings get filled.
Thank you.
Okay, Curry Funeral Home, Multiplex Center Incorporated, docket ZBA 12-00028, applicant proposing to locate a funeral home on the first floor at 428 Elizabeth Avenue, block 523.03, lots 13 to 28, in the M1 RDO zone.
I guess, Peter, you won't have to go very far.
They say multi-streets.
I know.
They have a chute right for...
I'm not going there.
Something else. We should be fine. All right. Get better. Thanks.
We have enough people?
We should have enough, right?
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Peter Lanford, 428 Elizabeth Avenue, appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for a use variance and waiver of site plan approval. This application is to use a certain portion or half of the building located at 428 Elizabeth Avenue for a funeral parlor. The applicant is proposing absolutely no changes to the site whatsoever vis-à-vis addition of any parking spaces, nor is there any proposed change to the interior of the building. The walls that are in the interior of the building, the space as it's laid out, will continue to be the same, so there are no structural changes to the building as part of this application. The applicant is seeking to use the building as it currently exists. At the current time, the upper level of the building is currently occupied, that the occupant of the upper level will move to the lower level, and the upper level will be used if the board were to grant the variance for the funeral parlor for that purpose. You will hear some testimony shortly that there is a slight deficiency in parking spaces by the number, I think it's 6 or 8. For the record, Mr. Curry, who will be testifying, has been in negotiations with the fire company across the street. They have agreed to lease to him when needed 38 parking spaces, which are all of the parking spaces to the left of the building where the fire company has their gathering hall or meeting hall or their rental hall, and those will be made available to Mr. Curry on an as-needed basis. I was trying to get the lease done, but the lease is being prepared by the attorney for the fire company. He did not provide it to us. I do have a letter from the fire company which was emailed to me this evening. I would like to, if I can get it up.
You're going to enter your phone into the record?
If I could, well, I'll supply, the letter basically says that they've reached an agreement, they will provide the parking spaces, that the agreement is being drafted, and I would indicate to the board that if the board were so inclined and that they wanted, they can make that a condition of approval so that we have the additional parking spaces if necessary, and I will supply the letter to the board. I have 2 witnesses this evening. I have Mr. Curry, who is the applicant, and also Mr. O'Brien, who is our planner. Hopefully I can get through this testimony a little quicker than I did the last one, but I would like to call as my first witness Mr. Curry.
Sir, if you'll raise your right hand for me, do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And you are Mr. Curry?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can have a seat, Mr. Curry.
Thank you.
Mr. Curry, what is your occupation?
I am a New Jersey licensed funeral practitioner or licensed funeral director.
And how long have you been so licensed?
I have been licensed since 1991.
Okay. And do you currently own and operate a funeral parlor?
Yes, sir, I do.
And where is that funeral parlor located?
The funeral parlor is presently located in Westfield, New Jersey, on West Broad Street.
Okay. And how big is that funeral parlor?
That funeral home is 5,000 square feet.
And how many parking spaces does that funeral home have?
We presently have 25 parking spaces.
Okay. And how long have you been at that location?
We were approved and opened up in October of 1999. That is when we purchased it. It was already a funeral home prior to that time, but it became Clinton Curry Funeral Home in October of 1998.
Okay. And you've been operating there ever since?
Yes, sir.
And you have now signed a lease subject to the approval of this board and want to open a second facility?
Yes, sir.
In Franklin Township?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And why do you want to open a facility in Franklin Township?
Number one, to expand our organization. We are a full-service, multicultural funeral home, diversified to serve and service all cultural persuasions, and would like to expand into a community that we feel we could be a viable business and for the community at large.
Now, are you aware how many funeral homes there are in Franklin Township at the present time?
I am aware of one at the present time that I know of, which is Mr. Gleason Funeral Home.
Okay. And at the present time, does your funeral home and your company service the Franklin Township community?
Yes, sir. And I apologize for not coming in a shirt and tie, but this is basically our uniform, and we are presently holding a wake at Reverend Lester's church this evening, which is located right off of Hamilton Street in Somerset.
And how long has your funeral company or funeral home have had a presence in this area?
Over the last 2 years, it has increased. Last year, with approximately 30 funerals from this area and the surrounding areas.
Now, with respect to the property that you are looking to lease, the upper level of that building, as stated, is approximately 4,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the way the floor plans were set up, you will have basically 2 viewing rooms, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you explain how you envision the facility operating? Will you be doing viewings? Will you be doing services? What are your projections for the number of services that you will have over the course of a year? And I know it's hard to tell because you're just starting out, but what do you envision happening there?
Our projection the first year of existence in Somerset, if the board approves our request, we project anywhere from 40 to 50 funerals out of this area, starting out.
And will all of the funeral or the viewings and the services take place at 428 Elizabeth Avenue?
No, sir.
All right. And why is that?
We have established a relationship with a number of churches in the immediate area, say, for instance, Somerset Baptist Church, where we will hold a large portion of our visitation or wakes, if you would, wake services. A lot of services are all in one within some communities, in that you'll have the wake service an hour prior to the funeral service. And 9 times out of 10, it has been our practice that most of those services are within churches. There's a couple of reasons for that, and if asked, I'll explain.
Go ahead. You can.
One of the reasons is helping out the local churches also helps our business to expand. So it's almost a one hand washes the other type of experience, in that we are able to utilize churches, donate funds to churches, and in exchange for the use of their church. And that's our primary reason.
Okay. And what do you envision taking place at 428 Elizabeth Avenue?
428 Elizabeth Avenue, we will have short visitations in the evenings. A lot of times prior to the wake service or the funeral, a family needs to come in and do an initial ID of their loved one. From that point, we'll either have a wake that evening and or a funeral the next day.
Okay. And obviously, there is size constraints within the building, and I guess you talk about having larger services in the church and some of the smaller services or visitations in the 428 Elizabeth Avenue facility. How do you make that determination? How do you figure out whether you're going to have a wake at the church or a wake at the 428 Elizabeth Avenue facility?
Well, presently, even at the Westfield facility, again, 90% of our services are within the church settings. And how we would determine that in some cases will pretty much so be based on a couple of things. Sometimes the phones are ringing, and it tells us right off the back, if it's a young person, we know that it's pretty much so going to be a large funeral. Sometimes if the person is well-known in the town or the city or surrounding area, it's going to be a large funeral. And at that particular point in time, such as tomorrow, the service for the young lady that we're having the wake service at Somerset Baptist this evening will be in First Baptist, and Pastor Soares will handle that service and has allowed us to use his main chapel for that service tomorrow.
Okay, so basically, the facility that you're looking to lease is for more of your smaller type services?
Yes, and
Okay.
just to have a presence
In the community?
in the community.
Okay. Now, as far as the facility, will you be having offices there?
Yes.
Okay, and how many employees do you envision having there on a regular basis?
2 employees on a regular basis
Okay.
at the most.
Will you be keeping your limousines or hearses at that facility?
No, sir.
Where will they be kept?
All of those vehicles will be kept at our hub, which is in Westfield.
Okay. And preparation work and all of that?
No preparation work will be done in Somerset. All the preparation work will be done in Westfield so that we can maintain control and quality of our work out of that particular facility. Quality control is very important.
What's preparation work? Explain that to me.
Specifically, embalming, preparation of the remains, and that type of work will all be done out of Westfield.
Now, when you do have a viewing or a service at the 428 Elizabeth Avenue address, will you be having additional employees there to provide assistance, and how many do you normally envision having if you're having a wake or a service?
If we're having a wake service, normally we like to have at least 3 to 4 people there, staff members there.
Okay. And I discussed earlier the relationship that you've started to establish with the fire company, correct?
Yes.
And you've had meetings with the fire company, and they have agreed not only to provide you some parking spaces, but you've also entered into an agreement with them that after a service, if there is a need for a repass, you will have their facility available, and you will be able to rent their facility for repasts.
That is correct.
Now, obviously, if there is some overflow parking, you will put those people in the parking lot of the fire company. How will you ensure or provide, if that is needed, that these people can cross Wiley to get from the fire company to 428 Elizabeth Avenue with safety?
We have our own security team. We've also had talks with the local security departments, and pretty much so we will either valet park them, or we will have assistance making sure that people are able to cross that street safely.
Okay. Now, if the service, if you have a service at the facility and then you have to transport the body and you have the funeral procession to a cemetery, you would emanate from 428 Elizabeth Avenue, is that correct?
Yes.
And how do you provide security and transportation, or provide security going to wherever you're going? Do you use the local police to do that, or?
We ask the local police to do it as well as with our security staff. Yes, that's exactly the way.
Okay, and are your vehicles equipped with lights and all of the other things that you need in order to have a funeral procession?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I have no further questions of Mr. Curry.
I have some questions. Are you on the first floor or the second floor? You said you were on the second floor?
Yes, ma'am.
The floor plan that we have says main floor.
Perhaps I can explain it, and I don't know the answer, and I've been in that building forever. Because of the elevation change, as you look at the building from Wiley, where the driveway goes into the building, all you see is basically one level. and there's 2 entrances to that level. That's the level that Mr. Curry,
So there won't be need for an elevator, you can just access it from,
there's a handicap ramp,
okay.
walkway.
But, you know, when you said second floor. I
Yeah,
was-
no, it's actually ground level. The other
It's like a
rental space,
walkout basement or something.
no, it's actually also ground level, but
it's
it's
below.
at a lower elevation and down to the other side.
Okay, the only other question I have is, on your sort of revised floor plan, you have reference to a prep room, which is right next to the women's room, and you said that there would be no preparation at this place. What is that prep room?
That is correct. Preparation room is exactly what you were thinking, or the operating room. We like to think operating room, but the reason why we have to have a room set up there of minimal size is because by the state, by the laws of the state, any funeral home establishment must have an embalming room or preparation room or operating room within the facility in order to be considered or approved as a funeral home.
Would it create a problem if we put in the resolution that there would be no preparation done there?
No, ma'am, that's not a problem.
Well, I'm just talking about legally, if you legally have to have a prep room, and then you have a condition that says, no.
We can represent that we will not do it. I would prefer not to have it in the resolution in case the state sees the resolution.
Those were my questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I noticed in the staff notes that there's a question, when you do have a funeral, as we've all been to, the cars have to line up someplace to go to the funeral. Where will you do that? Where will you stage the cars that are going?
In this, have you been past the building, Mr. Reese? Or there's only one driveway in to the facility, and that's on Wiley. And there's a comment that Mr. House does want to meet with us just to make sure we will make him happy, and obviously that would be a condition of approval, and we would be happy to do that. But there's 2 entrances to the main level or upper level. Is probably the way it was set up was that the hearse would line up by the ramp so that the casket can come down the ramp, and then the rest of the vehicles would come from the parking lot and fall in line behind the casket. But again, that would have to be approved by Mr. House, and I will meet with him.
But the cars will not line up on Wiley Drive until they're ready to leave, right?
Until they're ready to leave, right. As a matter of fact, the area in front of the fire company is delineated that there can't be any parking or standing because that is all marked off so that the fire trucks, if they have to leave, are not obstructed, and we're aware of that.
Mr. Chairman, there are 2 viewing rooms, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how large are each of those viewing rooms approximately?
Well, those rooms right now are probably roughly about 10 by 12. We're going to do things a little bit differently from the norm. I know in most cases the large chapel is there, which will seat somewhere between 50 and 75 people. But unlike most funeral homes in the state of New Jersey, we've had the opportunity to visit other funeral homes, and we kind of like the smaller viewing room where just the remains are there in the casket lying in state, along with a sofa or 2 for the family members, and then people will come in and visit with them, and then go back out into the chapel area where, in most cases, and I'm quite sure you've attended, some wakes and services where people kind of congregate and talk, and it becomes a social gathering actually at that particular, almost like a reunion to some.
So the floor plan basically is you'll have a small chapel, then you'll have 2 viewing rooms.
Right.
And each of those viewing rooms is about 10 by 12?
A little about that, right?
Yeah, maybe a little bit larger.
Maybe a little bit larger. And that's where the deceased will be?
Yes.
So people can come and view them?
Yes.
10 by 12 sounds, I mean, that's really
I
small.
could be off, but it's,
Either way, I mean, you know the space. How many
Yes, sir.
people, in each of those rooms, how many people could be there visiting at any one time?
well, the people will come in, speak with the family, and then they'll step out so other people can come in, and we'll kind of maintain control. But if it's something that's large, say a larger wake, then either it's going to be in church or we'll do it right there in the main chapel.
But how many, what would be the number? What would be the larger, what would be the max that you think you could accommodate? Somebody, how many people do you think you could fit in the building?
50 to 75. That's where we're
that'd
going
be
to
for-
kind of keep it that way, because
And that'd be if
outside of that,
both-
it needs to be in church.
That'd be if could you have 2 viewings going on at the same time?
Yes, we
Okay.
could.
So that'd be the max of the 2, 50 to 75?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir. We don't want to exceed code or anything of that nature. We'll be very careful with that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Next.
Mr. O'Brien?
Solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Your name for the record?
Kevin O'Brien.
And unless anything has changed since the last time, we will accept your witness.
Still have my license, Chairman. Thank you very much. Congratulations on your reelection.
Mr. O'Brien, can you indicate to the board why we are here this evening?
We are here this evening, as has been described, for a D1 use variance for a variance that is not allowed in the zone. As has been pointed out by Mr. Healy, this is an M1 industrial zone and has an RDO or retail overlay to it. We are also seeking a parking variance for a deficit of 8 parking spaces, as well as site plan waiver.
Okay. Now, dealing with the variance, first of all, the D1 variance, in preparing your testimony this evening, did you review the zoning ordinance of the Township of Franklin and the master plan of Franklin Township?
Yes.
And can you indicate what you found when you reviewed it in relationship or in context to this application?
Yes. Funeral home is not allowed in the RDO district, as I've indicated, yet funeral homes are allowed in the other retail districts of the township. And in fact, leaning on Mr. Healy's report, which was issued to you on the 4th of January, he wrote, quote, "In my opinion, there is no reason why a funeral home would be inherently inconsistent with the retail overlay district. E.g., funeral homes are permitted uses in the other retail zones in the township, NB, GB, HBD, and no reason why a funeral home would be inherently inconsistent with the nature of the surrounding area, which consists mostly of office and light industrial uses," unquote. And I would agree with Mr. Healy that this area is very conducive to the proposed use. The parking shortage on site will be made up by leasing spaces from the fire department, which is across the street. Fire department has a large number of spaces already on the property, approximately 89. Of those 89 spaces, 40 are on the east side of the building or closest to Elizabeth or to the rear of the building, and we presume that those are the ones that are going to be used by the fire department on a regular basis. The lease is a positive economic asset to the fire department, and that will assist the fire company in their mission. And on the west side of the fire department, 38 spaces are available, which will provide more than enough space to make up for the 8 parking space deficit. And as you know, many people travel together to these types of events. Few people travel alone. There are some, of course, but typically people go in couples or families to pay their respects. So the parking needs may be somewhat lessened than what one would typically expect out of a square footage table that is in the zoning ordinance. I also have photographs of the area.
It woke me up.
Thank you, sir.
This is where I voted all the time. There's plenty of space.
All right. Take it.
This is a Google Earth photograph that was taken on the 4th of July, 2007. Somebody was working on that Independence Day. And the elevation was 1,029 feet above the street. The bottom yellow box is the current existing law office, and the upper box, a little bit to the left, is the existing firehouse. Looking on both sides of the firehouse, you can see the extent of parking that exists, and you can also see how the right-hand driveway of the firehouse lines up with the driveway to the law office, making it easy for Mr. Curry to work in his mission of crossing people safely and orderly from one facility to the other. I would also point out that this is going to advance shared parking because, as you know, most of these services are typically in the evening. The law offices are typically open during the day. They are not typically open during the weekend. And Mr. Lanford has represented to me that he is not in the office on weeknights because he's usually here. I would also point out that the proposed use is one that serves the community. It serves the public by providing a community facility that assists people in a very difficult time. There is currently one funeral home here within the township limits, and I would remind the board that there are 62,300 residents in the township of Franklin, and that does not include, of course, those who live in the adjoining areas. No physical changes are going to be made to this building whatsoever.
Does the master plan give the board any illustrative or information as to whether it should grant the variance that we are seeking this evening?
The 2006 master plan land use element has a number of goals on page 1, and amongst them are, quote, encourage commercial and industrial development in areas with access to major regional highways and in established areas. Second, locate major employment and traffic drawing uses in areas where they will least impact residential neighborhoods. And under the community facilities element on page 1, a goal is to provide adequate community services and facilities to serve the needs of all current and future residents in the township. And while that certainly directly applies towards facilities of the township and other government agencies, it also does speak to those things that serve the public needs. And I believe that this application supports those goals by locating a community-serving facility on a major road in a commercial area.
And does the municipal land use law give the board any guidance as far as the grant of this variance?
There are several parts of the municipal land use law in section 40:55D-2 where the goals of zoning are listed that I believe advance this application. Among them are Goal A for Alpha, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development in all lands in this state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Item F for Foxtrot, to encourage the appropriate and efficient expenditure of public funds by the coordination of public development with land use policies. And lastly, item G for Golf, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses. And I believe that this application is consistent with those passages by providing a community-serving funeral home in an appropriate location that is distant from conforming residential neighborhoods and provides an economic boost to the Wiley Drive Fire Department.
Do you see any negative impacts if the board were to grant this variance?
I do not. I see a number of overwhelming benefits. I do not see a negative impact to the neighborhood, to adjoining properties, or to the township as a whole. And I would remind the board that there is no physical change proposed to this building whatsoever.
And have you reached a conclusion after hearing the testimony of Mr. Curry and reviewing the master plan, the zoning ordinance, and the municipal land use law as to whether the board can grant the variances that we are seeking?
I have. And as the board recalls, with a use variance, an applicant has to meet a three-pronged burden of proof. First, that special reasons exist that are based in the basis of zoning and the municipal land use law, that it meet the positive criteria and that it can be reconciled to the master plan and the zoning ordinance, and last, that it meet the negative criteria and that it have no negative effect upon the neighborhood or the township. I believe it meets the special reasons test by providing a needed funeral home to a community that is currently underserved, provides an economic boost to the local fire company. It certainly meets the positive criteria in that it can be reconciled with the master plan and the zoning ordinance. It is particularly suited for this location, and sufficient parking is proposed. In terms of the negative criteria, there'll be no negative impact upon surrounding properties, no physical change to the property, and this fits in well with the surrounding offices and light industrial uses that are identified in this neighborhood. Lastly, it's certainly a public benefit. It may not help certain parties in this room, but reducing the amount of space that is available for lawyers may be a positive public plus.
Where'd that come from?
That may
Came
seal
from
the
the heart.
deal.
Wait.
May have a negative impact.
I see how you rep your witnesses, Pete.
But I would conclude that this application can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. Thank you.
I have no further questions of.
Question, probably to you. What about signage?
We are going to, there is an existing
I
sign
know.
approved. We're going to use the existing sign at this point in time. There's no,
So you're going to share the sign?
yes.
Okay.
Was there not a funeral home on Franklin Boulevard by the Exxon station, you know?
Yeah, it's not there any longer, I don't believe.
Okay.
How about lighting at night?
There is parking, there is an approved site plan. There are,
You don't have to change what's existing.
right, there is lighting in the parking lot. There are three highlights, and if you drive past the building, there's also a lot of lighting emanating from the building.
Would it be worth listing the hours and days of operation? Is that a?
I mean, the reality is, it could be a 7-day-a-week, depending on when the wakes are, and, I mean, usually,
We have no limits in that
Yeah.
area, do we?
No.
Of any kind?
Primarily, it's
Yeah.
going to be evenings is when you have the greatest public impact.
yeah.
And we just have to hope there's not a funeral and an election at the same time.
Well, again, there is, in the agreement that we have with the fire company, obviously, if there is an issue with a conflict, Mr. Curry would then move the services in the wake somewhere else. The fire company does have priority, and as you are aware, it does get awfully crowded around their election day, so you hope it doesn't happen that way.
Well, also, the fire company rents out the banquet room and has.
That is typically on a Saturday evening.
Yeah.
And there will be no wakes or funerals Saturday evening.
Any other questions?
A few questions. I assume, are there any issues in the staff reports that you cannot comply with?
Cannot or don't want to. I think there's a.
Any that you want to bring to the board's attention?
No, yeah, just very briefly. Mr. Healy's report is fine, as always.
Well, I was quoted. So. He left out the however part, but he addressed it in his testimony.
Okay, and obviously, as far as whether we need to have some markings for fire lanes, I will meet with Mr. House. With respect to the engineer's report, they are, again, I've asked for a waiver of site plan, and they're asking us to do certain things that are above and beyond because there's no change. And the building was approved There are architectural plans on file for both levels. There's a survey on file which hasn't changed. I don't have a problem giving another survey. I do think that items 6, 8, 11, and 13, and 14 of Mr. Houck's report are unnecessary and unwarranted, and would request that we not provide those. And if you want me to discuss them briefly, I will. And those are things normally that you do when you're doing a site plan. And since we don't have a site plan, we would ask that they not be provided. To go out and confirm a water main that's existing within Wiley Drive has nothing, we're not tapping into it, we're not, we use it now, but it's there and we're not doing anything to it. And to have somebody go out there and find a water main, maybe because the township doesn't have it in their records, I don't think is relevant or germane to this application, nor the existing and proposed architectural floor plans are the same that are on file with the township now. They're not changing. So I don't know why I have to have somebody come out, redraw them, and resubmit them.
Yeah, and if this is approved and they move forward, and changing anything, obviously you'll have to prepare new architecturals and submit them for building permits.
Correct. Correct. Possibly amended site plan. Yeah, we're adding on. And 11, Wiley's property has some drainage on our property, and they want us to give Wiley an easement. Wiley's never asked for it. It's there. We don't care that it's there. But again, it just involves an unnecessary expense to have somebody go out there and survey it, locate the easement, and grant it. And again, it's between the property owner and Wiley. We don't have any problem, but I don't think the township has any interest in, or should have an interest in that. And items 13 and 14, again, CAD discs and CAD-generated files are normally with site plans or subdivisions, and I don't think they are appropriate for a use variance. So I would request that the board waive those requirements. Again, the dedication, I don't have a problem with. Doing a new survey, I don't have a problem with. And removing that pipe is obviously not a problem. But I think the other things are just unnecessary.
Okay, anything from the board?
If I could, in my opinion, I think what this boils down to is the parking. They are seeking a parking variance. They're required to have 36, is that the right number?
Yes.
36, and they have 28. And I think that also goes to the issue of the D1 use variance. One of the things they need to prove, or the key thing, is they need to prove that the site is particularly suitable for the use. I opined in my review, Mr. O'Brien spoke to it, I don't think there's anything about a funeral home in that area of the town, in that zone, that there's no issue with that. But in this particular site, do they have enough parking for that particular use? In my opinion, I think that you may want to concentrate your discussion on that issue.
Yeah, Pete, just one quick thing. You don't want to do 2 through 5 either, right?
If I'm getting a survey, I could absolutely draw. If I'm going to give you a survey, I think a surveyor can draw those things.
Okay, I just wanted, if you're going to do the survey. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, do I think they're necessary? No, but again, if
Okay.
I'm going to give you a new survey,
All right.
we can put them on there. If I may just briefly address Mr. Healy's point, and he did mention in his report that there's a possibility that there may be the opportunity to provide additional parking on site. And there probably is. I think at this juncture, I don't think we would rather not build parking spaces because we may need them, as opposed to coming back here and asking for a approval to build parking spaces because we need them. I think I've tried very hard with that site to try to keep it attractive, and I don't want to take out grass to put in parking if it may not be necessary. And it's a balancing act, and I think in the future, and hopefully Mr. Curry is successful there, and if additional parking spaces are needed, I think there's ample opportunity to provide them, and we would certainly agree to come back and provide them when appropriate. But as I think we've done in this town, and I think this is one of the few towns that sort of believes in the philosophy of not building parking spaces unless you know you really need them, rather than have them sitting there and empty, and you'd rather see grass. And I think that's what I would like to do in this situation.
I think if the board is, if you've been satisfied by the testimony that the 28 spaces will be fine because they're going to have a shared parking arrangement office with the funeral home and with the arrangement with the firehouse, then you may make that decision. Or if you feel that perhaps they should have some additional spaces, one option could be to condition the approval on land banking it, which we've done, both boards have done before, where if over the course of time there's a record of not enough spaces on the site, the zoning officer can make a determination and basically make them finish those next 8 spaces. So that's an option if you don't feel, but if you feel the 28 spaces is enough, that you can make that determination as well.
When I initially looked at the application, I was troubled by the parking. However, it seems to me that if they've got an arrangement with the firehouse across the street, I can't imagine, unless that arrangement should fall apart, that there would be a need for banking the parking spaces, because they have that problem adequately addressed.
Yeah. And I just wanted to point you in that direction, and whatever decision the board makes.
I think we should make the approval a condition that we get the, before we ever approve a final resolution. If we do approve this case, is that we have a copy of the lease with the fire department as part of this before we issue a resolution on it.
Well, I don't think you have to wait to, I don't think you need to have it for the resolution. I think you need to have it before their approval is valid.
Right, yeah.
Before they can move in.
Yeah, before they can move ahead. I mean, that's just a little semantic, but.
Anything else?
No, I just think they've shown that it's particularly suited and works. So I'm all for it.
Into the public.
Well, I'll entertain a motion.
Public. Open to the public.
Oh, I was going to make a comment. We'll open to the public, but apparently there is
No, we do have a member of the public that may want to say something.
Okay. Why?
I'm Reverend Milton Lester. I'm the pastor of the Somerset Baptist Church on Pershing and Martin Street. I've been there 8 years. I've known Ron for over, I won't even say how old I am, but I'll leave it right there. But to God be the glory. I'm sitting here listening, and I can assure you that in about 3 to 5 years that Ron and his attorney will come back and tell you that they need permission to find land to build even a bigger place. If you've ever seen a funeral, I would invite you, and it's not like a party, but if you want to see a class funeral where someone put a loved one away the way they should be put away, you need to come to a Plimpton Curry funeral, and I think that you would be so impressed. I want to also let you know that Ron never has to worry about having a building to do a funeral. He can always come to the Somerset Baptist Church. I never want you to think that he's going to put your community in jeopardy because he has someplace else to be able to rightfully have a wake and a funeral. I can tell you that Ron has had this vision to come into Somerset for over 10 years that he's been looking. And I'm excited because him and we rode down many times down Hamilton Street. There was other sites that we wanted to look at, but evidently it wasn't for him. And so I pray that, that you would vote yes, and I know that he would definitely bring class, even more class, to Somerset. If I ever buy another house, I'll move out of from the borderline of Woodbridge and Perth Amboy. Some folks think I live in Woodbridge, but I really live in Perth Amboy, but I live in the upscale. But I promise my wife that if I'm blessed to buy another house, I'll buy a house in Somerset, only if I can find it all on one level. I don't ever want a level house with steps. I would just encourage you to just come by and see. Even tomorrow, if you're not doing anything, he's not bringing junk to your community. I can assure you that. He's class. Everything is uniform. One of the things that I'm impressed about him, all of his vehicles are uniform. Everything looks the same. All of his employees, when they do a service, they must be dressed alike. What I'm really impressed about, and he'll probably be able to make a great impact on the young people in Somerset, is that he hires young people. He hires females to carry the bodies, to carry the caskets. I'm impressed with that because many times young people say that they don't have something to do. He's a mentor also. He believes in mentoring. I believe that he would be a great asset to even go over to your high school, to your middle school, if nothing else, just to give words of encouragement to the young people that think that they can't become anything, that they can become anything, something. I don't want to hold you up because I know it's getting late, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm excited about being here before you just to be a character witness for one of my best friends.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll have entertained anything else from the board, including a motion.
All right, I move approval of the application, both the D1 application and the parking variance, D1 variance and the parking variance conditioned upon the filing of a lease with the fire, not fire department, fire
company.
Fire company, hello, fire company across the street. Also, there's a request for a site plan waiver, which I would recommend approving together with waiving items 6, 8, 11, 13, and 14 in the House report.
Second.
Just reflecting in my notes, do you want a condition regarding the keeping of the vehicles off-site? Do you want that in the resolution?
Yeah, I would add that, amend that.
Okay.
I'll still second.
Okay. That's what I had.
Go ahead.
Ms. Graman?
Yes.
Mr. McCracken?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
With the understanding of very careful determination of the parking, I'll vote yes.
Mr. Reese?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes, welcome to Somerset. Good
Thank
luck,
you.
and may your next building displace another lawyer.
We're done, right?
Okay, meeting's adjourned.